When you play the Game of Thrones, you
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
Hello YouTube, and welcome back to the Grease Goblins YouTube channel. And in today's video we're going to be continuing the What If series. And in today's video we're going to be talking about Daenerys and what if she was actually killed in the attempted poisoning in the first book of Game of Thrones, and see how that impacts the rest of the story and how I think this could have changed the overall story. But before we get into the video, if you guys would like to subscribe, like, and comment for more of these type of videos from me, really helps out the channel to reach other people as well as some other things. And if you guys would also like to recommend me a what if that you would like me personally to do, to discuss, we can talk about in the comments, let me know, and I will try to do my best to get those out. And yeah, all right, let's get into the video. So Daenerys, we get into where she's at Vaes Dothrak, she's at the markets or whatever, and she decides to drink this, wine that is poisoned. She ends up dying and all that, right? So Daenerys dead, the dragons don't ever come to be. What immediately does Khal Drogo do? Does he look to avenge Daenerys, as in going across the Narrow Sea and all that? I just don't think so. Because this is a promise he made to her kind of after, the whole fact that she was attempted to be poisoned. And it was something for Dany because of what King Robert had tried to kill her and stuff like that. Would he have tried to avenge her after she had died and all that and going across the Narrow Sea with the Dothraki? I just don't think so. And with that being said, I also don't think Khal Drogo would have died as well, because that was kind of a lot of the Miramez Dearth type thing that eventually led to him getting killed. So I don't actually think that would have happened. But Khal Drogo, I think, largely stays in power and continues on in his side of things. A few other characters I would like to mention at this point. Jorah, I think he had gotten his pardon at this point. There was really nothing for him in Essos at this point. I think he definitely would have gone back to Bear Isle, or at least gone back to Westeros. Next big character, we have Barristan Selmy. Now, Barristan Selmy was looking to be part of Daenerys's, council and be with her at this point. So what would he have done? I think largely probably would have gone to Stannis, because he was the next rightful heir in his mind, probably because he was the oldest brother of Robert. But I think he probably would have gone to him. And I think that's really where his story would have played out until he saw some of the things maybe Stannis was doing, maybe, and would have maybe left. Not sure on Barristan. I think he's very much a question mark in this theory, or this fan fiction type video. I'm not sure what he would have done. Let me know what you guys think Barristan would have done instead of going with Daenerys, because he can't go with Aegon, because Aegon he doesn't know about yet. So that's something that definitely could happen down the line, where he goes with Aegon. But I'm not sure with that, how that would all work out and what would go on there. But for the most part, a lot of the main beats of the story would continue until we get to a little later, which we'll talk about. But this also messes up the big Dornish plot, because the Dornish plot was they were going to marry Quentyn Martell to Daenerys to get, Dorne into, the fold and have a marriage pact with the Targaryens to bring them back to Westeros. That was their idea. They also had one with Viserys and Arianne, but that one obviously fell through. But that wouldn't have worked either, because Daenerys is dead. So what would have gone on here? At this point, the Dornish probably don't think there's a Targaryen left until Aegon is eventually, I guess, revealed at some point. And that's going to be a lot different in the story as well because of Daenerys' death. Because the main thing with Aegon was he was actually going to attempt to get a marriage with Daenerys as well. And if that's not going to happen, what does he end up doing? They still get the Golden Company, right? And would they have attacked Westeros right away? Would Varys, with Jon Con and Aegon have looked to maybe marry him to the Dornish right away to kind of, fix all that stuff with Dany? Who knows? Because the big problem with this is Tyrion is the one that suggests that he should actually go to Westeros. So that's where Aegon gets that idea, and Tyrion would not have been there, right? Because Varys more or less would not have made Tyrion go there because Dany's dead. So would have Tyrion gone on to help support Aegon? Would Tyrion have gone with the Dornish? There's a lot of questions around Tyrion. I think Varys might have sent him to help Aegon instead of Daenerys at this point. And maybe Tyrion goes, okay, we'll attack Westeros in a weakened state right now. You have the Golden Company. You can get the Dornish. So maybe that's how that goes instead, where a lot of things that, you know, happened with Daenerys actually happened to Aegon. Now, the next big key thing is that Essos would, or not Essos, but Slaver's Bay, none of those slaves would be freed. All of those would still be in, you know, captivity. Aegon would not attack them for the most part. And it would still be a pretty awful place for the poor, as well as, you know, people that were enslaved at this point. So that's a major drawback of Daenerys being, you know, dead and all that. We also wouldn't have seen a lot of the visions from Daenerys, which from the book storytelling wise, you know, we wouldn't have seen as much foreshadowing and stuff like that. I'm trying to think of any other major things with Daenerys that were happening during the story that we have now, because the next part is kind of speculation that we don't even have the books yet. So it's me kind of just making speculations on what I think is going to happen and just kind of removing Daenerys from what's going to happen. So moving on, I think the big part of this is going to be, I think Aegon would take the throne. I just think the Lannisters at this point and all that would still be the same, more or less, that there's so much disarray and confusion between the Tyrells and the Lannisters, and the Seven Kingdoms really still not being united, that I think with the Dornish power, the Golden Company, Aegon and Jon kind of would be able to take King's Landing. And the big thing here is, I always say that I think Aegon's going to lose when Daenerys comes. Daenerys is never going to come through. So with this being said, I think Aegon actually does win the Game of Thrones. Now, with him winning the Game of Thrones, he's only going to win it for a little while, because we have this big threat of the others, right? We don't know what they want. We don't know kind of what their big thing is. I've done a video on them before. If you guys like to watch that video, that is my ideas for what is going to happen with the others and the whole idea there. But my big thing here is going to be, if there is going to be a battle and stuff like that, and if it cannot be resolved to like a negotiation or something like that, I do think the living are screwed here, because I think the 3 dragons that Daenerys does possess, or even if she only has 1 or 2 left at this point, are going to be very influential against an army of dead, and, you know, people, things that get killed by fire. I think without having the dragons, this is going to be a major loss for them. And I think the forces of good, or the living, are going to lose. If it comes to battle, I think they're going to lose, because we got to think Aegon is a younger kid. Is he going to believe what he's being told? Jon Con has no experience with anything up there like that. I think it would take maybe the North falling for them to even realize what's going on and try to gather an army and go north, while a lot of the Seven Kingdoms are still in conflict. And, you know, he would still be having to, Aegon and Jon Con, I'm trying to reference, would still be in this idea where they still have to get peace throughout the realm. And that's a very hard thing to do in a short amount of time, to then gather all these armies and go north. Without the dragons, I don't think they'd win. I think personally the others would win this scenario, and I think that would be really the end of the story. And that's what I think is crazy, is a lot of these what ifs, the ending usually ends up being the others would win. Because one way or another, if you don't have the dragons there, or you're not unified, you're going to lose. So that is kind of my what if for this. It's a mixed bag. You have good things for some characters, like a character like Aegon, where he would, you know, take the throne and stuff like that and be the king. But you also have the bad of that, where you don't have the dragons to help in the War for the Dawn. You don't have all these slaves being freed from, you know, being enslaved, which is terrible as it is. It's a mixed bag. But I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys think would also be impacted by Daenerys' death and stuff like that. And yeah, I'd love to see your guys' ideas for this, and we'll see you in the next one.
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.